Well, it seems to keep getting better and better, and the story just keeps on giving. Let's see what we got today. We have more on Jeffrey Epstein and what Trump wants to release, and now it's the grand jury testimony. My name is Musa. I'm an attorney, and I have been for the last 25 years. I'm licensed in 3 different jurisdictions, and yes, it's Casual Friday today. You don't get a tie. And behind me, that's Ladybird, the shark, circling around. So let's talk about what Trump wants to release. This story has gotten really big to the point where they can't get away from it. Nobody can get away from it. It appears that the only thing that will keep this story from burning down MAGA is to release something. So Trump has elected to release the grand jury testimony, portions of it. Now, let me tell you why this is bullshit. First and foremost, the grand jury testimony is a secret testimony that is provided to grand jurors who determine whether or not you get formally charged by the government. They determine whether or not you acted in a manner that fits within the statutory guidelines, and they render an indictment. Okay? That's kept secret, and that's always been that way, except for few circumstances where some states' law enforcement is able to appear and testify on their own behalf if they're charged with a crime. That's not the case in this circumstance. Again, keep in mind that the indictment that they're going after in these grand jury sessions is against Jeffrey Epstein. So releasing those grand jury records are only going to focus on the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein. Second, Ghislaine Maxwell is reliant on the testimony from that grand jury and intends to use it in her appeal. So there's still an open pending case. So are the courts going to release it? Of course they're not going to release it. And let me tell you why it doesn't matter. Because there wouldn't be anything in there anyways. They say a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. And the reason they say that is because I've had a couple of ham sandwiches hire me for indictment. It's true. That's not a saying because it's not true. It's true. So what they go in there and do is provide the minimal amount of probable cause required in order for grand juries to connect the dots and to go ahead and fit the crimes committed into the statute requested. You'll go in there and you'll have a prepared indictment, and I've done this when I was a prosecutor, and you'll walk into the grand jurors and you'll basically just say, the defendant is charged with this, this, and this because on this day he's alleged to have committed these crimes. You swear in your witness and you let the witness do the rest of the work. You walk out of the room, you're not allowed to hear anything that goes on in the grand jury, and then a few minutes later, or however long it takes them, you'll hear a ding, and that means that they've made a decision on whether to true bill the indictment or to no bill the indictment, meaning whether or not they decide that there is a case or there isn't. I've seen about half a dozen no bills in my 25-year career in 3 different states, so it doesn't happen very often. And when it does happen, it's usually directed by the state to happen. Think of the case in Ferguson where the grand jury was public and they ultimately decided not to indict those police officers. That grand jury was directed not to indict those police officers because it's very easy to let them know what you want them to do and how they should proceed. So, what is this? This is like getting a completely redacted FBI file, maybe that just has the name of the defendant on it. That's probably the equivalent of what we're dealing with. So, don't expect anything to come out of this. This is clearly a way to try to satiate the MAGA crowd who can't believe it that their president's an alleged pedo, and there's a ton of evidence to show that he is. So, here we are. He is kind of boiling in his own pot, his own mess that he created for himself. He's trying to get ahead of it. You got Pam Blondie talking about she had this list anyways. Then she says it wasn't a list. Then she says it was just a Rolodex. The fact of the matter is that they had evidence that connected people to Jeffrey Epstein for nefarious circumstances and that they did not release it. And now, to get around it, they want to release the grand jury testimony. The grand jury testimony does nothing and does not provide any insight into any crimes that were committed by anyone other than Jeffrey Epstein. So, don't fall for it, folks.